Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Google, Vice President, Engineering, Travel, Oliver Heckmann, in discussion with Skift Executive Editor and Founding Editor, Dennis Schall.
Oliver, thank you.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, thank you for being here. Quick public service announcement. We've brought in a sustainability initiative to Tech Forum through the nonprofit Clean the World. Forum attendees are encouraged to visit the station to assemble hygiene kits of unused soap and amenities that will go to a local San Francisco charity serving those in need. We have 100 more kits to go. And you also get earn a raffle ticket to win a 3-night stay at an Accor property. So go for it.
That's a really cool thing. I've just done it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Great for doing that.
So Oliver, our long wait is over. Google has finally created a unified travel offering, putting together flights, hotels, packages, alternative accommodations. How has this, all in one place, how has this impacted your business, and what does it mean for advertising partners?
Yeah. So at Google, we have like millions of users literally coming to Google every day for help with their travel research. And we all know trip planning is one of the most complex tasks that people do, has multiple hundred touch points often, and so on. Frankly, what we've just done and launched 4 weeks ago is something that was long overdue. We always help users in different ways, like you mentioned, with flight search, with hotel search, and just to name a few. And what we've now done is we've tied them, unified the user experiences, and interconnected the different experiences, reducing friction for the users so that now it's easier for a user who, let's say, has just looked up a flight to San Francisco to also quickly check the content from our hotel ad partners for the hotel in San Francisco. As I said, this is an overdue update that was needed for a long time, and we've taken our time to execute it correctly.
Because you were improving the hotel product and things like that?
Because both products had been optimized for a long time as independent products.
Right.
And when you do this change, you want all the metrics to move in the right direction, both on the user side as well as the partner side, and that's not a trivial task.
So what does that mean for advertisers? If I'm a hotel and I'm advertising in Google Trips, what does the change mean?
Yeah, from a partner perspective, from an advertiser perspective, that means we will be able to supply you with more reach, with more leads, and also with more qualified leads in the future, for a number of reasons.
So the cost per click, I assume, is going up?
No, that's the thing. The cost per click is a function of the competition and the bidding behavior. That is not really, that is somewhat indefective. The cost per click is a function of how many people are fighting over that traffic because it runs an auction.
Right.
Yeah, that is independent of how much of that traffic we actually have available and you could buy.
So you also mentioned that hotel ads are becoming part of Google Ads. So can you explain what that means and what the significance of that is?
Let me actually take maybe a step back on hotels, because on hotels in particular, I'm very proud of what the team has done. We have, in the last 2 years, done major changes in hotels. Not in the strategy, it's still the same strategy. We are building a good user experience and we're connecting our users to our hotel ad partners. But we have rebuilt the entire user-facing front end from scratch with better technology on a faster stack. The new user experience, if you compare it to the old one, is far better. We see engagement metrics with many features that are important for users, like engaging with reviews or photos. They have literally doubled with the new experience. We have now functionality in that we're very proud of in the flights product, and we've ported it and adjusted it to the hotel space, like, for example, giving users transparency and price information across not just the dates selected in the date picker, but also the surrounding dates, because a lot of users have date flexibility. That's on the consumer-facing side. And this is a result of users over the last couple of years having asked more and more complex questions in the hotel space. If you look at queries like, let's say, hotels with a ballroom or hotels with a private jacuzzi in a suite, those type of queries that are very specific but also harder to answer have grown like 60% in the last 2 years. So that is a reaction to that. In parallel to that effort, we've done the integration into Google Ads, formerly known as AdWords, that you just mentioned. And that further simplifies this for our partners.
So previously you had to place ads in both?
Yeah.
Okay.
So a typical partner historically had to go to Google Ads/AdWords for their text ad campaign and would then go to a different tool to use hotel ads. And now we're in the process, and it will end in the next couple of weeks. So we're working with a lot of people here in the room on finishing that transition. And Nicolas was just up on stage. Cody has been very helpful. They've been an early beta partner in that transition. So thank you to them. So we're finishing that transition, which means in the future, a hotel partner will just have to use one tool to run their hotel campaigns as well as their text ad campaigns.
Okay. And as part of this transition, you still have, but you're retiring the Google Trips app. I really like that app in terms of you go somewhere and trying to find things to do.
Yeah.
It's really good. It had another controversial part in terms of it showed all your previous travel history, all your itineraries and stuff like that. So why are you retiring that, and what did you learn from that?
I just got a similar question in the green room, literally, where someone said, oh my God, don't retire the Trips app. So let me clarify what we're doing and why we're doing it. When we started building the Trips app about 3 years or so ago, we made an assumption, and that is we were building at the same time the destination product, which is integrated into search and now into the unified travel experience. We thought, okay, that's the product users will use when they're planning a trip ahead of time. And then we built that app, the Trips app, that they will then use and install when they're in destination for use in destination. And both experiences have been optimized for those different use cases. The reality is, however, we got that assumption pretty much wrong. Users that used destinations before tended to, in destination, continue to use destinations, versus users using the Trips app in destination then also continue to plan their next trip using the Trips app, which was not what we had optimized it for. As a result of that, we started then porting the functionality from the Trips app logically into destinations, because users are using those two tools for the same use cases, so they became very similar. Then the next thing happened, and that it was very clear that users are also, when they're in destination, using Google Maps. In fact, the Trips app encourages you to offline Google Maps content, and the typical pattern, and I was just in Venice last week, is I look up in the Trips app what I'm doing next, and then I'm switching to Google Maps to actually get there. Well, clearly that can be optimized. Wouldn't it be awesome if we just take that functionality and the information I have in the Trips app, move it directly into Google Maps? Now I only need to install one app. I don't need to switch between the apps, and everybody wins. I still have the functionality from the Trips app, but only now in a single app rather than two. And that is exactly what we've been working on for the last year. We're still finishing the last portion of implementing those features, and then we're switching off the Trips app soon.
How many people have used Google Maps today? Raise your hand. So
you mean today?
Today, is it Thursday? I mean, Google Maps is becoming ubiquitous. You can book hotels in it now. You have all the navigation and transit information. You could book restaurants, make spa appointments. Is Google Maps becoming a super app along the lines of WeChat or Grab Taxi?
Or Paytm. This is not how we look at it. The Maps team is looking at Maps as okay, how can we help users get things done? And that's why a lot of the use cases you just mentioned, they've done a really great job on solving for those use cases. An obvious use case we just discussed earlier is also, okay, now I'm not in my hometown, I'm traveling. I was in Venice last week. Maps is inherently super important, but now we're trying to adjust Maps to fit the travel use case, which actually, if you think about it, has many interesting, challenging problems and nuances in user experience design of what you need to do. For example, when I'm using Google Maps at home, the default zoom level should be pretty zoomed in because it's at home. I know I need to pick out those street names, and then I will know roughly where in the town that is. That's pretty useless when I'm in Venice and I have no idea where that street is. You need to zoom out quite a bit because I need to see the entire island to figure out where the thing is. So there are many of these interesting nuances that we're working through. So we have our work cut out for ourselves.
Has there been any thought, like WeChat does, to add peer-to-peer messaging in Google Maps or phone calls?
I mean, Google Maps links allows you to very easily trigger a phone call from GMM on your phone in iOS, but it's not in the app itself.
Okay. Let me see. Alternative lodging. I wanted to talk about that. So you've added vacation rentals.
Yep.
But it's very different from the hotel product. It's not meta search. It's not. I don't think it's people. Well, is it people bidding on? Yes, it must be people bidding on placements. Why haven't you gone the meta search route with alternative accommodations, or is it just too? Are the properties too different from one another?
There's a structural. It's actually a complicated thing. From a user need problem, it's very similar because I need accommodation. I either take a hotel or a vacation rental. From a how to present the information, it's actually quite different. Like vacation rentals, like for hotels, you can have the same hotel and you can book it from 20 different partners, and you're going to get the same room in the same hotel. That is not the case typically in the vacation rental space, where you cannot merge those different entities from different partners. That's why a UI that would be very similar to hotels wouldn't work. Other reasons are that often you don't want to show the exact location of the vacation rental. Again, that because changes how you visit the UI. So we settled on building a UI that's specifically optimized for vacation rentals and presenting the content from partners in the optimal way, but having the entry point into the vacation rental experience be the same as in hotels. So you can easily, if you go to desktop, we just launched that, you can just tap on vacation rentals from the hotel search, do your hotel search first, figure out the best hotels you would stay, and then you tap on vacation rentals, and then you check out and compare that to the vacation.
Basically, you're not monetizing that yet, are you?
Yeah, we're keeping our options open on how to do that, but the straight approach of running an auction of different companies that can sell you this specific hotel room clearly doesn't work in that space.
And I don't see Airbnb in there. So why
they're not. It's their choice.
Okay. Is it on the horizon, or what are they telling you?
I cannot comment on what their plans are.
One thing I'm interested in is the progress of Book on Google, where Google takes the reservation for hotels. Why not do that for vacation rentals as well?
Let me clarify Book on Google. There is a very common. So contrary to all of us in this room, as we know, our normal users only travel once a year or so. And they don't always use the same company to book their travel with. So that a typical example that we often see is a user comes from Google, clicks through to a partner, tries to book a hotel or a flight. They log in with the account they created many years ago. You type in the password, whatever password that you used 3 years ago. For me, that typically means after 3 times my account is locked, I go through the password recovery phase, which now means I'm switching to my email app, waiting for that link that they sent me. Then on the mobile phone, hopefully it's a link, and I just tap it. If not, I have to figure out copy and paste over multiple lines, which is a tricky exercise for your finger. Then you recover your passport, then you're finally logged in. Now you remember, what was I actually trying to do? I wanted to book that flight. You re-enter all the details. To then encounter the next problem. Your credit card has expired because the credit card you used 3 years ago, some other credit card is giving you better points today. So now you start entering your credit card, and then hopefully 10 minutes have passed. You still remember what you were out to do, or you've been interrupted 7 times by your children. That's typically what happens to me. Not the very best experience in the world. Wouldn't it be more awesome, some of our engineers said, if we just used the likely up-to-date credit card information you have in your Google account, because most users tend to buy movies, apps, and so on with that all the time, so it's always up-to-date, and the fact that we have users' name and address typically stored in the Google profile, and just make that drastically simpler so that you don't have to go through that painful experience. Other obstacles are different languages. I stayed in an Italian hotel last week. Their actual website, the English translation was not really the same English that I speak.
But brands that are doing that are giving up certain control of the customer.
No, actually,
and I'm sure that's a hesitancy. They don't want
that's not the case.
Users to think, oh, I go to Google the book instead of going to their site.
What we're doing is basically we're trying to make it the exact same as if you would have booked on that other website, but the page is now hosted on Google instead of on, let's say, the hotel supplier's website, which is something a normal user won't even see. The hotel supplier or the OTA is the merchant of record. They are sending the confirmation email. They have the user's email address. They will very likely re-engage the user later on with offers and advertisement and everything else. Yeah.
Speaking of credit card and payments, Facebook just started their new cryptocurrency, Libra. I assume you're not going to be joining in that project, but do you have any ideas or have you kicked around how to get involved in cryptocurrencies, if at all?
Yeah, I'm not working on the GPay product or that area that is responsible for these kind of decisions. Right. I don't know.
Sure. You talked before about Google Maps and the product teams are trying to solve problems. One theme we've been talking about all day is how our team is organized at Google in terms of cross-functional teams. Are the product people talking to the advertising people or different departments? How does that work?
Yeah, this is actually a passion of mine, how we seat people, and the regular discussion of a lot of work for our admin team. So the way we run, how we build products at Google, and on the tech side of things, meaning the different forms of engineering, product, UX, and other functions that are related to how we build products, we co-locate them to the extent possible with where people like me obsess a lot of time, okay, I want this team to be in the closest physical distance to that. So you typically find a team of a number of engineers, 10 engineers or so, sitting with the UX designer responsible for their product, sitting very close or directly
teams
in the middle of them. The product manager definitely sitting in the middle of them, and other engineering functions like test engineers and so on sitting as well in the middle of that. Then we use different functions like program managers and product managers to talk to the non-tech parts of the company on a regular basis, like marketing and sales, and basically keep the flow happening there. On the sales side, again, we have specific teams whose entire job is to take that information that is coming from engineering and distribute it in the right way, because sales is naturally a regionally oriented organization, because that's how you structure like sales teams. And engineering is, by the way we built this at Google, a global function, so structured globally, but distributed geographically.
What's happening with machine learning and AI in terms of Google Travel?
I could talk about that for like literally
Well,
2
we
days.
only have 2 minutes.
2 minutes then. Machine learning is changing the art of software engineering and the science of software engineering more fundamentally than anything that has happened in software engineering in the last many decades. The job of a software engineer in the coming years is very different to the job it was when I learned it. We use machine learning to improve user experiences in Google Travel in various ways. One example is flight delays. We have a team in Cambridge. They're feeding all kind of information, for example, delays and arrival times and plane status of arriving planes into a big machine learning system that then takes that information with other information like airport-specific information and outputs predictions of flights being delayed, for example, by 30 minutes. Very often that allows us, when we're confident about the prediction, to notify users that the flight is delayed long before the airline does that.
Even though you didn't take the booking?
That has nothing to do with it. If a user searches for LX81, yeah, that's the flight I was on. Yeah, that's in Google search. We would show that to you. If we know through the trips reservations information that you are on that flight, then we can send you a notification. That's even easier. But most users just look up the flight name in Google search. That's where most of the traffic comes from.
Okay, we have some audience questions.
Just can I also add one more thing? Machine learning is changing our entire industry probably more than any other industry in the world for one reason. Language barriers are a huge obstacle to our actual customers, users traveling to other places and experiencing other cultures. And the advances in machine learning, in particular in neural networks, directly feed into improvements in machine translation. Yeah? If you go and look at machine translation breakthroughs in quality improvements over the last years, bigger improvements than the decade before happening in very short time. Yeah. I was in France in a vacation home, thunderstorm hits us at night, the trees are coming down, the power cable from the power line literally went down 200 meters away from our house and is lying on a meadow, and I have to make a phone call in French, which I'm not speaking, to get someone there, literally super urgently, because I have little kids and this looked really dangerous. Google Translate, it was a seamless conversation. It was absolutely mind-blowing, magical. So that is going to change. It will take many years before you literally have your perfect personal translator with you all the time, but it's coming, and it's going to change the way people travel more than maybe anything else.
I have some mind-blowing questions here. Google's transition from meta search to OTA, this is a question you've never heard. Is that a question of if or when?
It is neither. Our strategy is to be the connector between the users coming to us and the partners that are working with us. This plays exactly to Google's strengths, and it's frankly also a position we feel like we're doing a really good job on. And this has been the historic strategy, and it's the strategy moving forward. So it's not an if or when.
As big tech attracts more negative attention, what will Google do to earn users' trust?
A lot of trust concerns from users come, for example, are in the sector of privacy. And in privacy, there are two things that are fundamentally important. Transparency, so allow users to understand what you're doing with their data. We're doing that. You should all go to your Google accounts page and read through that.
People don't do that, though. I mean, you have, like you said, you have millions and millions of users. They're not going to the fine print.
It is pretty prominently featured. Even if you click on your picture, on the right upper side in the Google products, there's a link to that. So we make it very easy to find. Go through that, read it, judge yourself if the language we're using is really clear and you understand it. That's transparency. The next thing is control. From there, if you don't like, for example, that we're using your Gmail receipts to make your travel experience better by showing your hotel directly in Maps, if you don't like it, you just opt out of it. It's on that same page. If you want to delete your data or part of your data, you click from there to My Activities, you select what you want to delete, it's deleted.
You should do a YouTube video on how to do this. I think a lot of people would learn something. Google Trips experience increases user utility, but could decrease advertiser satisfaction. How do you measure both of these to keep all parties happy?
Yeah, this is one of the fun parts and challenging parts of the job. We obsess about data. We have data science teams. We run experiments, percent experiments, whenever we do any change, and then we obsess over the data. The good thing is very often you do an improvement in user experience, and that also brings up partner metrics. So for a lot of launches, it's win-win and easy. But sometimes there are certain features that you build and they move one metric that you care about, let's say on the consumer side and one on the partner side, up and down, and then you need to basically use your judgment and make the right call. So we typically look at this not just on an individual basis, but also across a larger set of features that we're building and launches, so that we can basically keep things in balance.
Tours and activities, hot topic. You're involved with Touring Birds,
yes,
which is meta search for tours and activities. Yeah. So why haven't you integrated that into Google Travel or Google Trips at this point, and where do you see it going?
The Touring Bird team is run out of Area 120, internal Google startup incubator. They've done a fantastic job in building a meta search for tours and activities. It's also a great team. On the travel side, we've been investing in the other things that people need to have high-quality data on. At the same point in time, they look at tours and activities. Specifically, that is high-quality information about the points of interest, and understanding also the other things to do in a destination you typically do that might not be a point of interest, or a tour or a commercial activity. Like when you're in Zurich, you should take a swim in the lake. When you're in Amsterdam, you should just bike somewhere. It doesn't matter where. It's just part of the Amsterdam experience.
So when are we going to see it?
So we've basically invested that. You're asking, tours and activities matter for us, but at this point in time here today, I have no specific announcement on...
There are other priorities at this point, basically.
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's just I don't have a specific announcement.
I just did Google Translate. Oliver, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.